Mishnah Berurah, as we continue Simin Lamed Beis. Today we're going to be finishing Sif Lamed Tes and as well learning Sif Mem. And we're in the middle of Sif Lamed Tes, in which the Mechaber is discussing the straight and the squareness of the Tefilin and the fact that the Tefilin both in its has to have the stitches in a square and as well the diagonal has to be perfect. Says the Mechaber V'zarch l'Rabeya Makam Ma'ishvam. And you have to square off the place in which they sit, and as well the houses, as well the bayis themselves. Says the Ramal, on the height of the batim, the height of the batim, you don't have to be particular whether it's more high than wide, etc. Now let's go see the Mishnah Berurah before we finish up the Mechaber. So it says that the Mishnah Berurah Sif 39b-40 Vav Tzar l'Rabeya V'gam zehu melech much misina yizot zolach much misina l'das reva paiskim V'gam zehu b'ribua gomer k'ma tefira. Just like we learned yesterday, it has to be a perfect square, so to here it has to be a perfect square. V'av t'meruba mamish b'melechas habatim. And even though to make it perfectly square, when you make the batim, dainu sheyeh b'tachlis at simsom, that should be perfectly precise. Who kimat min hanimna? Ask the Mishnah Berurah to make it perfect. It's almost impossible. Mikol makom komad dashlo adam la'asos. Meaning as much as you could do. Bevadecha yivu la'asos. Ayin b'krei adinim. And of course, a bit of an interesting din because the whole kasha of Mishnah Berurah is it's impossible. His answer is okay, but do as much as you can. Makam Ma'ishvan, Vua Titeira, which is the bottom. Dainu, Sheyachtoch HaMemarba Mishnei Tzdadim, Kedei Sheinika Mirabua Titeira, so that you can tell that it is perfectly square. Klamam Sif Dalet. Tzarich Lashgiach Ma'oyid al Zeh. You have to heed, you have to be very, very careful with regarding to this halacha to make the bottom perfectly square. Ki kol Zeh Ma'akiv Afilu B'di'evet. V'gam yish lashgiach mininat tefira also the sewing. Ki machbad shasevinois and the kavim gedolim k'sas. They make big holes. Nimshach ha'chot l'stadim. The chot pulls a little bit to the side. When it's tefira shavas b'ribua. And now the stitch is not perfectly square. And I'm sure everyone will look at the bottom of their tefillin and they'll see the stitches and they'll see sometimes the stitches are not perfect. Zeh nichnas they yotzi a little bit in and out. The titeris strictly is merubah. Bein malmal bein lamatas be a perfect square. Concludes the Mishnah Berurah. And now in her terrible sins, many people are not careful that the tefillin should be square. Give a mitzvahs, you know those that are very precise in their mitzvahs. Those who are not particular, only in the top. And it's easy to fix. Continues Mishnah Berurah, Sif 39b-40 and Chaz Gam Abatim, and so to the houses. Knock those that make the tefillin shal yad circle on the top. Rak shemar b'yad titerim l'mal, you should square it out. Elo bin shal yad bin shal roish, merubom, they both should be square. V'kavana bin shal roish, why should the shal roish be square? K'she'arba botim yachad yem merubom, if the four squares, as we know, the shal roish is comprised of four different pieces that make up one larger square. Not each one by itself. And the squareness of the bottom have to be the entire height. The ice itself. So we continue now in the Mechaber, in which he teaches us a son merubas. Let's say your tefillin were created perfectly. You made them nice and square. And then what happened? And after a time, the squareness was a little bit messed up. It's not as perfectly square. Some say you have to fix it. Says the Ramal. You everything equal. You should have one larger than the other. Says Mishnah Berurah, they got a little messed up. Going, for example, they became not perfectly straight. The point of the mitzvah of the lemay of each one is a little bit its own direction. Or perhaps it's not a perfectly square and it's more circular. The bottom, Any of these are issues. So yesh b'shaymer sevkadon kavei ein chaylik bazeh. Derech ha'mechaber kein b'arbeah makayim etzkosh kisam the elves sevkadon kuv chav gimel. Shazar l'rabeah, you have to fix it. Because this whole din, as we learned yesterday or the day before, this whole din of being a square is Allah Sinai. You always need it to be that way. You don't have to always measure that it's perfect. You assume they were square and they remain square. But if you see that it's messed up, then that's an issue. Then this akimati Torah, let's say the titur of the bottom is not perfect. It is a square. Rachmachmas as asmos that the titur here is kamashina meruba. It looks not square. Yachsav yitak and you have to refix it. But yastikov bebeis with the evidence of the rochov mechaverai. One wider than the friend is going to be kosher. And now we learn Sif Mem says the machaver. Or abat in the height of the house is mitzvah la'asais and shachar they should be black. And they come on Sif Lam Gimel. Charitz bin bais the ditch, literally the line. That's a teenager the bayit in the phone shall yad tzarche egia the tever should go all the way down to the stitching. Bim lo shegia kashera. V'ushi and nigra charitz, it has to be recognizable the ditch. K'dei sheidal rosha near in the kol, that the four sides should be recognizable to everyone. So it says the Mishnah Berurah Sifkot and Kof Bei Gimel that the batim Kof Bei Gimel abatim have to be black. Certainly the shin, the side of the tefillin, has to be black. At the time they're very old and it peels, so you have to be particular about this. Mitzvah kuf beidalid. Mashma to be evident in Kuba. For the fact that the lashon machaber is that it's a mitzvah to be black, sounds like it's only lechatchila, but with the evidence will be okay. Some hold the fact that the bottom have to be black has the halacha which is seen just like the straps. Well, if you look at the evidence, it didn't even be the evidence. The Beragra sounds like that's the halacha. They even the evidence to be black. Unless it's impossible, so it's not to be tefillin. So the Shabura sounds very, very strong that you should really be very careful that it should be black. When it's impossible, in a place where it's impossible, this makkah to be mekel. Shachar, Kof Be'ez, that's Mishnah Berurah, V'Shacharus. Toiv Yosef, Shevet Seva, Shachar should be with a black dye, Shein by Mamish Klal, that has no substance. V'Atfilin Yesh Chayim, Rak V'Chazuta Ba'alma. And the color should be black. Kol Makom HaMashchirim, can mean glance, those that make it black and shiny after, Shev Shalikalfo, they can't peel. Even though it could be removed a little bit, and it could chip a little bit. When we get there, we'll learn more about the blackness. That which are safe from nowadays, they were machadish, they created this novelty. They make it this blackness that it could peel. We call Simon a Tefilin Zurasikim and Yar Shachar, and it's like a black piece of paper. Zehu Pasal says the Machaber, says the Mishnah Berurah, that is a problem, and that is Pasal. Continues Mishnah Berurah Sefkat and Kov Bevav Simlam Gimel Seftalad Ba'Gah. Ayin Sham Mishnah Berurah the Ramal Gadol Shita the Machaber Acha. The Ramal is going with the Shita the Machaber over here. Whoa, Rak LeMitzvah Ba'al. Ofi Mashkisan Dubai is Kov Beidal Yishayim Bazeh. Ushiyah. Av if it's not recognizable, Av should be b'fnei mish b'dal b'atim. Let's say on the outside you can't tell it's for b'atim, even though it really is. Kol parsha b'nachos b'bayis b'nei atzmai. Still loy mahani. So there's two dinim of the tefillin shel raish. It has to, number one, be for b'atim, and number two, it has to be recognizable that way. Nikr mivachotz. Aval srita. Oy rishima b'alma. Loy mahani klal. The line does not help at all as we turn over the page. Has to have a little bit of space. Shacharitz and Nikar Mamish has to be a real ditch, not just a scratch. As we saw yesterday, they were saving that glue together. Should be all the way through. They put on top of it a piece of leather, and they just pretend like there's a ditch. With the knife, that's for sure puzzle. They said because it's really one house like Tefilin Shal Yad. We'll pick up in Sif 39b-40 tomorrow.